Welcome to Speed Vector, the podcast dedicated to the art, risk, and obsession of speed flying. I'm your host, Victor Garcia, speed flyer, skydiver, cinematographer, Navy veteran, and full-time gravity junkie. Every week, we dive into the lines we fly, the gear we trust, and the stories that push us past the ridge and into the void. Whether you're just learning to launch or chasing the perfect line, this is where speed flyers come to connect, learn, and stoke the fire. This is Speed Vector.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Speed Vector Podcast, episode 12. My guest today is a man by the name of Todd Higley. Todd started skydiving in 1994, where he discovered his love for human flight and soon after began base jumping. Todd's love of flying parachutes led him to start ground launching his cross brace canopies along with his base canopies. In 2008, he purchased his first Speedwing and discovered the endless swoop that he had been searching for. In 2013, Todd and his wife opened up Skydive Chelan, which over time evolved into Airsports Chelan, offering a premier location and top-tier instruction for skydiving, paragliding, and speed flying. Todd later purchased Deer Mountain, overlooking iconic Airport Ridge, which further expanded his capabilities of training new pilots. Todd is the kind of person who will give the shirt off of his back, literally, and he'll guide you towards being the best pilot you can be. He's an instructor, mentor, and friend to me. I was very thankful to sit down with him and record a podcast. Enjoy.
And the giraffe.
Yes.
Spread his legs and got some water.
Brilliant. Please continue. We're in it. Mr. Todd Higley in his own house.
Yeah.
In his own hangar. It's pretty cool.
Welcome to my second abode.
Second abode.
I guess it's almost primary. I spend more time here.
I was about to ask, what's the split home to hangar? It's probably
in the summertime, hangar, wintertime, home in tropical islands.
Nice. That's right. You guys go to, is it Hawaii every year?
We just try to choose something new every year.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. What was last year's?
Last year's was Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
This year's
right.
is Belize. My wife and I kind of vowed that every year we're going to take a 3-week vacation for the rest of our lives. And so we try to do 1 week tropical. And then since, we have winters off of work, we're ski bums. So we do a 2-week ski trip.
Oh, outside of Washington, you go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Like global or?
Not necessarily, because we have a 7-year-old kid. So last year we did a week in Idaho and a week in Canada.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place, or where is your favorite place to ski?
Well, my home skis resort is Mission Ridge outside of Wenatchee, so I have to, give them some props. But last year I went to Apex in Canada, a small little resort, and the terrain was awesome, the snow was awesome, people are awesome, and it's my son's favorite place now, so we might be going to Apex every year for at least one ski trip.
That's BC or is that Alberta?
It's BC.
BC.
And it's only a 3-hour drive from where we live. I just right across the border.
Nice. Yeah, that's right. You told me about this place. That's cool. It's like kind of mom and pop feel, but it's big and awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not busy. I mean, we went there thinking it was going to be busy. There was a mogul pro ski competition going on, and they've got 3 quad chairs that you literally just ski onto.
That's awesome.
On a busy weekend, supposed busy weekend. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
I love that. I mean, yeah. Vail has its time and place, but, having to wait in a 45-minute long lift line to get, tracked out, runs is kind of a bummer. So it's the mom and pop places are nice, less people, still the same terrain, still the same snow, just more fun.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. What do we have to do to get speed riding legal? I'm just jumping into this. We're just going to talk about speed riding for a minute.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to get that legal in ski resorts in the United States? Is it even possible?
It's extremely tough. I've been trying for a while. When I started, I just did it at ski resorts, and they allowed it because they didn't know anything about it. This is early 2000s. I think the first time I got invited to Crystal Mountain in Washington by a friend of mine, Karina, and she was saying, hey, they go up all the time with the Farringtons, and they owned a skydiving center, and the family's been skiing there forever. In fact, Andy Farrington is a pretty well-known skydiver and Red Bull athlete. He's on the Red Bull Air Force. And so I went out with those guys, and they convinced the ski resort to literally shut down runs for us. And this is before Speed Wings, and we're just skiing with our skydiving canopies and bombing down these runs that they literally convinced them to close them down for us.
That's amazing.
So I went a few times with those guys, and that was a lot of fun.
How did you rig that up? Were you running like your skydive container and just parachute out, or how'd you do that?
What I did is I used my base container, and I just hooked up my my skydiving canopy. At the time, I was had a Chaos, like a cross brace canopy. Back then in 2000, was it 2000? It was pretty new technology, and they were challenged to get inflated. Compared to new Speed Wings now. And flying, of course, the glide ratio wasn't that good, especially when they're kind of damp from the snow on a sunny day, and we're wearing all our ski gear. They're heavily loaded canopies, and so we needed some very steep terrain to fly.
And probably a lot of speed, I'm sure, associated with that.
Yeah. There's a lot of high speed crashes trying to get those things launched.
I bet. Yeah, I can imagine. But at least it's probably relatively soft, as long as you avoid the rocks and the trees and ice or whatever. Not a lot of ice out here though, which is nice. That's crazy. I want to get into your history and stuff, but before we do that, for those that don't know you, which is probably just a small portion of the Speedfly population, to be honest, introduce yourself.
Well, my name's Todd.
Hi, Todd.
What's up? I've just been in the Airsports industry. That's what I try to call it, because I do everything from skydiving, base jumping, speed flying, paragliding, and I'm been in the industry for a long time. Mostly started skydiving back in '94, and then in the early 2000s, late '90s, early 2000s, we were what we called ground launching base canopies and skydiving canopies. So it was pretty fluent to transfer into speed flying in 06 when the first Speed Wings came out. I didn't try one until 08, I think, is when I tried my first supposed Speed Wing, and they were terrible, but they launched better.
Launched better than the base canopy or the cross base.
Totally.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
I mean, base canopies launched. I would do it with some high winds, and it was pretty simple.
Sure,
but very boring flights. But
right,
still entertaining.
Yeah,
for shits and giggles.
It's another way down.
Yeah. And so helped manage some student programs in skydiving. And, once I was introduced to the new Speed Wings, I opened a skydiving center in an area that also was, Chelan, Washington, which is pretty much world-renowned for paragliding. The U.S. U.S. Open is out here for XC flying. But anyway, I came out here a couple times with a skydiving outfit and did some boogies out here. And noticed that, you could skydive and speed fly and paraglide, everything in one location. So that's why I decided to open Skydive Chelan out here in 2012 is when we moved out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, not only is it a mecca, for Airsports, but it's also beautiful. We were up on Deer Mountain earlier with a guy that you're just helping make the transition, from high-level skydiving to speed flying. And I've seen this place, hundreds of times now over the last year or so. And I still pinch myself when I'm here, especially when I'm not flying, because I'm not locked into trying to, not kill myself or beach myself on some rocks or whatever. I don't take it for granted, but it does strike me as being like a super beautiful place.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like when I was deciding to open my own skydiving center, my wife and I were discussing locations, and it was between Chelan and the Big Island of Hawaii. And we chose the Big Island of Hawaii. So we went there back in 2006 and ran into some problems working with the state and environmental impact studies and blah, blah, blah. So we gave up on that after the state threw a 5-year environmental impact study at us.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Now there is a skydiving center there now on the Big Island. I forget what year they opened. I think it was 5 years after we started the process.
Really? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Anyway, and then, came back to the U.S. and got our nest egg back up and running and started Chelan, which ended up being the silver lining that Hawaii shut us down. Because this is the place we want to be.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you get all the seasons. If you get tired of one sport, you start doing the other. Hawaii's beautiful. It's an awesome place to be, but it's the same weather every day forever. It very rarely changes. And obviously you're not skiing there, and I know there's a paragliding school out there, but I don't think there's a lot of speed flying on the Big Island. It's just not steep enough, at least where they're doing it. Maybe you can get away with like a mustache, but I think that's pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a soft spot for Hawaii. I love Hawaii.
Of course. Yeah, me too.
In the paragliding, there's Maui has a section. I think he's just commercial and not much sport flying out there. The Big Island has a couple spots on both sides of the island.
Sure.
That conditions are good. They're good, but they're not always good.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And definitely not much speed flying. I tried to do some off of Mauna Kea, and yeah, not the greatest. Conditions are very limited.
Sure.
On when you could fly.
That's a crazy spot too. I mean, it's obviously a volcano, but you go from, sea level when you turn onto the road to go up there. And then if you go to the top, you're at what is it? 12,000, 13,000 feet? I mean,
12,000.
12.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole different world up there. And there actually is snow. I mean, there's people that ski there, which is hilarious, but
I wouldn't
make ski like movements for the novelty. It's not necessarily skiing, but
Yeah, I went up there once after a big snowstorm with some coworkers.
That's cool.
And we just brought frisbees as sleds.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's probably about as much as you can get away with. I think building a snowman, maybe a snowball fight, but different world. It's definitely cool. A lot of speed flying now, or a lot more people doing it on Oahu, which is where I lived, and I mean, I got my first speed wing out there. I did, 20 hours of ground handling on the beach there, but across from Dillingham but had no interest in trying to get airborne off of those launches above Dillingham, because it's like, if I had to, categorize it, it'd be like an S3 kind of style. I mean, flat launch to big cliff to more rocks, and, it's mandatory.
I was over there 20 years ago launching off of there, and it wasn't ideal.
Launching off of there with what?
Skydiving canopies.
That's insane. To put it in perspective, I was scared to do it on, a wing that was manufactured in like 2020, 2021, modern, and you were up there throwing it off the cliff with the parachute, with the skydiving parachute. That's amazing. It's hard to imagine, but different times, desperate times.
Yeah, it's the tools that you got.
Right.
See if it works.
It probably made sense at the time. Right? Yeah. Because you didn't know, they're like the R3X didn't exist, or whatever. Name the wing didn't exist.
Totally.
So
my first wing was a Schema 16 meter. You've probably never heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
I don't think anyone has.
How was that?
It was horrible. And coming from a skydiver, base jumper, flying style, it was more equivalent to, kind of a hybrid mini wing. So the oscillations that I had on it my first flight were just, with no instruction or anything, it was pretty horrific.
Wake you up. Like,
the whole flight just oscillating back and forth. And,
wow. And that's coming from someone that has a lot of skill under canopy yourself at that point. It's not like it's not like you had never done any, canopy piloting up, you had a lot of skill. So if the wing was acting that, poorly for you, then I can't imagine being new and trying to fly that thing. It sounds like a recipe for disaster.
I can't even tell you who the manufacturer was. Like, maybe Schema was the manufacturer. I don't know.
Sure.
But
who knows?
From what I've heard through the grapevine, they made it 1 year and done.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. That's crazy. So, I mean, you've been around ground launching, for lack of a better term, parachutes since before speed flying was even a thing. So you've gotten to watch and be a part of it going from nothing to where it's at now. That's pretty impressive.
Like I said, my first wing was a Schema. My second one was Ozone's first wing, the Bullet 08.
Okay.
And so I've been...
Was that in 2008? Is that why they called it the 08?
Yeah.
Oh, very, very original. Nice job.
Yeah, and then eventually I got a hold, and for nostalgic reasons, the Jin Nano, I think in 06, was the first paraglide manufacturer to make a true speed wing. And I had that in my arsenal for a while.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I think that wing still exists. It's just, they've just obviously changed it, I'm sure, completely, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so. It sounds like it's for the better. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I see them around, not a whole lot around here, but I know like in Europe, like videos and stuff I've seen, it seems like it's a popular brand, Gen, in general. And obviously in the paragliding world too, it's probably maybe they're bigger in the paragliding world. I don't know, but it's I haven't flown one, so they're interesting. But
yeah, it seems like you'll see a certain type of wing in an area, and it's normally revolves around an importer or a dealer.
Right. Yeah, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. That's crazy. So so you said 08, right? You got your first wing. What was your progression like? Obviously, you're still doing all these other sports, but what progression did you take through the sport of speed flying? I guess. I mean, if that makes sense.
Well, coming from a skydiving high performance parachute swooping background, I was looking for that endless swoop. So the term that people use now, I hear astagrass. That was my intentions and my desire is basically that endless swoop. And I really appreciate the sensation of flying close to terrain. And so proximity flying is what drew me towards speed flying.
Right. Because inherently that's what you're doing. I mean, even if you're not in the terrain, you're still way closer to it than you are out of a plane, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in skydiving, there's the only time you have to be close to terrain is on landing. Because most skydiving centers aren't, next to mountains, although we are.
Yes, you are. That is true. And we're seeing
Hawaii.
that more. And Hawaii.
That's probably the only 2 skydiving centers I've ever jumped at where you actually have the potential, even though a proper DZO will not allow you to.
Not on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you definitely can't ask permission for that. And out of Dillingham, I mean, the mountains are right there, but they're actually pretty far away. If you were to fly a line down those, you'd end up in like a farmer's, crops or whatever, or in elephant grass that's 20 feet tall that, you just don't want to go anywhere near. But yeah, I mean, and that's what drew me to speed flying is just the idea of swooping. Cause I was pretty frustrated in skydiving cause it's like, man, like I want to swoop, and it was hard to get good instruction in general, even if I was willing to pay out the ass to get it. It's like you only have 300 skydives. You cannot fly a 120. And I'm like, but like, watch me fly this 150. Like, okay, fine. You're right. You can fly a 120. Cool. But then it's like, only do 90s. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't need to do any more. But then I'm not getting what I want out of, like, I wasn't getting the feeling that I was searching for. And then I started speed flying and it's like, oh, this is exactly what I've been searching for the entire time. I just didn't know it. And it's cool.
And I've seen that a lot with skydivers that will learn speed flying. You have certain people that are really gravitate towards speed flying and almost leave skydiving behind. And you have the opposite as well. You have some people that try speed flying like, you know what? That's not for me. And stay more with the skydiving side. Same thing with paragliding. I've seen paragliders will try speed flying and they won't go back to paragliding. And vice versa too. I've seen skydivers learn to speed fly, then learn to paraglide, and that's their thing. And they're
sure, just different,
Right. Everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Yeah. It's interesting how it has a really like a pull towards some people and other people. It's like it's like a magnet, you either it works or they completely reject each other. It's a is it pulverizing? I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Polarizing, maybe? Whatever. It's a sport that is all encompassing or not at all. From my perspective, at least what I've seen and for myself.
Yeah. And with me, I've been an instructor for 30 something years, be it skydiving, speed flying, paragliding, base jumping. And they're all similar sports, they're air sports. But yeah, everyone has their own little niche that they might be going after. Some want to do all of it, and there's others that you don't know what you like until you try it.
Sure.
And that's like I said, I had a buddy that was just a diehard skydiver, and then started speed flying. Like, whoa, no, I'm switching to speed flying and didn't skydive much. And also saw the the difference in economic impact from skydiving versus speed flying, especially if you have accessible terrain in your backyard that you can hike for free.
Very true. Very true.
And then he tried paragliding, and now it's 90% paragliding because he likes the idea of just going and flying, and didn't know that he liked thermaling and going up for long 5-6 hour flights.
Certainly.
And that's their thing.
Right. Well, I mean, you definitely get to know your wing a lot better if you're going up, even for 10 minutes under a paraglider and ridge soaring or whatever than you would on a, 10 1-minute long speed flights. It takes a lot more time, I think, actually flying and speed flying to get to the same level of understanding of your wing as it does in paragliding. Just because of the time and, under the wing. I mean, it's tough to replicate that, right? Because we're just going down.
Yep. I mean, there's pros and cons. And speed flying, you're going to definitely dial in your launches better. You're going to have more launches and landings. So those aspects, speed flyer is going to know their landing characteristics and launching characteristics more than a paraglider would. When you have XC paragliders on a good day, they're getting one launch in. They're getting one landing in.
Right.
But their feel of the wing and active flying and turbulence, they're going to be one with their wing up in the sky more than a speed flyer with 100 flights versus a paraglider with 100 days of flying.
Right. Yeah,
of course.
Totally different. Yeah. Because that 100 days of paragliding does not necessarily mean, well, it probably means 100 launches, right? In theory, if they're only launching once and landing once, and it's 100. But I mean, for me, like, just here at Airsports Chelan, when I'm healthy and the conditions are good, like 10 laps, 12, 13 is totally feasible. And that's with shuttles and hiking. I've done 10 hike laps, which is brutal. I've also done 10, days where it was like a hybrid. I hiked a few and then there was a shuttle. So I did, shuttles, and there's always a shuttle here. I should clarify that, but sometimes I avoid it because I want to get the workout. But
we benefit from having terrain right here and private, we can send shuttles. And there's not too many places that have that. I think you got Point of the Mountain, you got Saboba, you have us, Lake Isabel, when it comes to like speed flying locations where you can go and just really train and learn.
Yeah.
There's not too many spots in the United States to do that.
Honestly.
And we're really blessed with having our location right here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we were talking about this the other day in the previous episode. I don't think there's a better place to learn and to dial in the fundamentals and then to progress also than this spot, because, Airport Ridge is, it's iconic. It's been around for a lot longer than these sports have, but, it started out as a hang gliding launch, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the first hang gliding spots in the United States is right here that we use in our flight park is Airport Ridge. And just a couple of years ago, a guy put together a video of some of that footage, and it's called Chelan in the Early Days.
Okay.
And if you YouTube that up.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description of this. I haven't seen that, but I'm very curious.
Oh, yeah, you'll see these homemade hang gliders. They literally put a swing underneath it. And these crazy bastards were launching those things like, well, I made it in my garage. Let's see if it works.
Jeez, talk about nuts. Yeah, that's some trust in your ability to rig something up. That's wild.
They're a rare breed back in the 70s. And
that's
80s.
A whole different world. Yeah, whole different world.
The true innovators.
Yeah.
And pioneers.
I complain sometimes. I'm like, man, I wish this wing would launch just a little flatter. But then I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, this wing is awesome and it launches so efficiently. Like, why am I worried about this? We're so spoiled in this day and age. Like, and for me, I've only been at the sport for like a year and some change now. I don't know what. Even the wing I started on, this Spitfire 2 Plus, a 15 meter, not a great ground launching wing, or it's a foot launch rather. Still probably way better than the stuff that, you were flying in 08 or, other people even, when did they get good? Like 2020, 2019, 2018?
Well, of course, when the first speed wings came out, what made them good is they had a flatter glide ratio. So it opened up more terrain that you could fly than a skydiving canopy. They also had Mylar in the leading edge of the ribs to really help it scoop air as you're bringing it up. So to bring a wing up, like an old skydiving canopy. You know, it didn't have any reinforcements in the nose, so the nose was collapsed coming up. So, I mean, you had to just get airspeed, and it was more like the bottom skin inflated before.
Interesting. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
That was one of the biggest things with a true speed wing would be that the opening inlets of your cells are open. So when you start moving forward, it's inflating your cells. So the whole point was getting the cells inflated, so then you have a wing over your head, and then your airspeed is going to get you airborne.
Right.
So it was so much easier to launch the 08 bullets than a skydiving canopy.
I'm sure.
You know, but still the technology changed. Like even in flight, I used to call it, you know, the breathing accordion. You know, while you're flying, you just see the wing, especially in turbulence, just closing. And so, you know, over the years, they started putting cross bracing in, just like the skydiving technology. And it was unfortunate that the paragliding and skydiving technologies didn't start merging for like another decade, it seems, where the skydiving knew about the according and the breathing and how to make more of a rigid wing once it inflates. And that incorporated cross bracing and that kind of stuff. So that started evolving into the speed wings to make it a more of an efficient wing. You know, then you had the shark nose technology.
Even more scoop when you're bringing it up, right?
You know, and then, hey, let's put some rods in there rather than just the Mylar, because the Mylar can start folding and tweaking and just making it a more efficient wing. And then rods going actually down the top skin to really keep the profile of that ideal wing that you have. You know, if you were to look at a mustache now, like everything's just evolving.
Right.
And it's getting more efficient and better. And it's a lot of fun flying different wings. You know, so.
Absolutely. And it seems to me that it's recent that this stuff is really taken off, right? Because I was flying an 11-meter original Mirage, and then I did some flights on the 15-meter 2RS, and it's like they shouldn't have named it Mirage. I mean, it's like a totally different wing, and the amount of time that was, you know, when did the original Mirage come out? Like, was it 16, 17? I don't know.
The original Mirage, I think 2013.
Okay, so I mean,
14,
still pretty early on, but like it's only been 10 years.
Oh yeah, when the Mirage came out, that was a game changer when it came out.
Was that the original?
Yeah, the original Mirage. Then you're competing with at that time would be the Gin Nano, the Ozone Bullet, and yeah. So when that came out, it was like everybody went to Mirage. Kind of like right now, with the the reflex profiles and the kite risers is. Bam, everyone was, let's try out the mustache, let's try out the line. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the next, 6 years of technology when all these other manufacturers have, they're doing their R&D, stuff's going to be coming out.
Right.
And hybrid wings are starting to come out that have the semi-reflex, with kite risers, and it's just all across the board, different types of wings. Sure. And that's where the educational process is going to have to change and is going to have to evolve around where is that pilot coming from, what style are they used to, and and how to adapt to the different style of flying that these different wings are going to throw at us.
Well, because speaking from firsthand experience, the difference between flying like a line versus an R3 is almost apples and oranges. I mean, it's the same concept.
It's like a tangerine.
It's tangerine. There we go. Apples and tangerines, or oranges and tangerines. Yeah.
It's a hybrid. I see it's like a kiwi.
There. I see what you did there. It's a kiwi. Slightly confused over here. No, it's a different sensation. Like same medium, same outcome, similar goals, but like completely different approach, at least in my mind. But it also, with that comes more confidence in the fact that like I know that I can retain a bunch of energy, like what I would consider pretty deep in a brake range, because you're not actually in the brakes, you think you are, but you're not. And it's difficult for me to one lap fly the line and the next lap fly a quote unquote traditional speed wing. It's interesting, and now it seems like that's the way the industry's kind of going, because all these new wings coming out seem to be, kite riser wings. Whether they have reflex or not, it's a different story. But
right, and that's where in the speed flying, at first you had the paraglider mentality coming in. Everyone was saying, don't fly on rears and don't touch your risers. And that was a big thing I was hearing a lot. And I knew that eventually, flying efficiently and not distorting your wing with too much brake input is, the riser flying was going to come around. And that's where you saw the manufacturers then try to teach. They'd have to manufacture certain risers to prevent people from flying rears incorrectly, or some people just pulling on the C risers and just flick of the wrist, and they're distorting their wing and not pulling it down, the B's and the C's simultaneously. You're trying to adjust the angle of attack and not really distort your wing and create more drag than you wanted to. So like the swing, the Mirage, I think the RS is the first one that kind of put a lanyard through, and now the Rapidos and the Trace and everything. So when you're reaching up and pulling, just in case you are pulling your C's a little too much, it's going to pull the B's down too to get to that profile. So in a sense, you are just changing the angle of attack like you are with a kite riser system.
Right. Using
the toggles and the pulley system. You're basically using your leading edge or your A's as the pivot point. And as you're pulling your toggles down, it is pulling the B's and the C's simultaneously. And you're just changing angle of attack and not distorting the wing and giving it brake input, so making it more efficient, higher speed, better glide,
right,
better wing. The downfall, what people are finding is like, you need a big landing area now.
Yes,
it's harder to shut them down.
They don't want to, which is what makes them fun, as long as you're not trying to land on a postage stamp. If you have a solid LZ, like a freaking runway, practically sometimes with the line, I feel like. How long is your LZ here? Is huge. It's like 200 plus meters. It's from like usable space.
The length, the length of it
is huge.
Yeah,
and I've done pretty decently executed 90s with my 13-meter line, and I have swooped the entire like grass part of that landing area, and it blows my mind. I'm like, I don't need to do a bigger turn, period, with this. It'd be fun, but the risk of me continuing past where I want to go is pretty high. So,
yeah. And again, that's also getting to know your wing.
Yeah.
If you have the ability to plane out, not necessarily over your landing area, but you can judge and know exactly how much space you're going to take up before you reach your postage stamp place, as long as it's not surrounded by tall trees and you're not trying to sink something in.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
You can still, that's knowing your wing and knowing how to shut it down, or at least how to be extremely accurate with it, which I think everyone should be extremely accurate with a wing before you take it to new locations and smaller landing areas, and
definitely,
and dial in your stuff, especially before, that whole thing, downsizing or switching styles.
What's your take as an instructor, and just, with the experience and knowledge that you have on downsizing?
Well, I kind of take away from the skydiving approach that we have. The USPA, they have a very strict downsizing, and I think it's a little too strict, but it's basically designed for the lowest common denominator.
Of course.
Which, there are athletes and there are people that will become an athlete with enough training. You have natural pilots, but you do if you're going to have a curriculum or standardization, yeah, you actually have to think about the lowest common denominator. It's like a struggling student that's going to take a while.
Right.
So it's really difficult to talk about downsizing because it depends on the pilot. But then it also depends on the instructor giving them proper feedback. And that's where in the skydiving world, it's easy to manage the downsizing because you're more observed by all your peers, and you have to get approval from, say, the DZ, the drop zone, and the instructors that are there. But in the speed flying and world, it's the redheaded stepchild,
Right.
Where, yeah, you can buy a wing off of some dealer out of the van down by the base of a mountain. And so it's too hard to regulate that downsizing of it. In a perfect world, if you could, and if you were to standardize it, it'd be a certain amount of flights per wing loading, and so forth.
Sure.
Say
more based on wing loading or more based on size, right? Because I know in the skydiving world, there's a plane taking off. You could be 120 pounds. You still learn on a Navigator, maybe 210, maybe,
right.
Probably 230 for your first couple, and then you maybe downsize to a 210. obviously a heavier person flying a 15-meter RS2 or 2RS is going to be different than a 120-pound person flying the same wing. Right.
So just like in skydiving, I always kind of shut things off at a 150, and below that would be considered, okay, you're entering the higher performance range, regardless of wing loading. And same thing with speed flying, like maybe you put that as a 13 meter. And once you get below that, once you're at 11 meters, okay, now you're falling into that high performance range. An analogy I like to use when I teach, when people argue that, hey, I'm so light, it's a light wing loading, is think about high performance aircraft like an F-16. It doesn't matter what the wing loading, how much fuel you have in it.
Right.
It's still a high performance aircraft.
Certainly.
Regardless of how much weight is
right. Right.
And that's one thing that I think speed wings should be considered. And I think there's got to be more with the people that are issued a dealership before they sell into those gears should be, I don't know, held accountable for who receives the wings that they sell.
Right.
Because I think if you want to do well for the sport and grow this sport, we need to make it safer. And whether that's readjusting the way that instruction is handled, it's also how the equipment is sold and distributed. That's something that's difficult to control in right now, the way it's more independently run with instructors, like I said, that are living in their van, and there's no peer review on who gets what, how people are instructed. And that's one thing that the USHPA has reached out to me and Carl and a few speed flyers to really help with changing that. And Carl with speedfly.com, he put a lot of work and effort getting the whole Speedfly rating system going, but they want to structure it more. And I will be helping with that here in the future. And we'll see if that does help, if there's more of a standard instructional path that everyone kind of takes, and that you don't need it. Like I said, I was a base jumper, so I still come from that rebel background, where, there was no regulations or instructional program. When I learned how to base jump, I was like, cool. Hey, my buddy, you're a base jumper. Can you show me how to do this? And he's like, yeah, get 100 skydives and I'll take you. It
was a mentorship kind of approach.
It was a mentorship.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to base jump from someone that had 7 base jumps.
Oh my God. That's
but amazing. Back then I was like, well, okay, you're pretty experienced. You've done this before. Show me how to do it.
Right.
And I wouldn't see regulating base jumping. I wouldn't see the United States Parachute Association, the Skydiving Association try to govern anything that has to do with base jumping. And, now that you can learn from your buddy in a mentorship program, or you can go take a 4-day course with someone in Twin Falls or Moab, and you'll get an idea, but it's not like you're
right.
fully knowledgeable of the sport and what you need to. Hopefully you have a mentor that takes you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so from the outside looking in, I don't base jump. I thought about going down that road, and then I found speed flying. So I went this route, thank God. But not that I have anything against it, but it just, there's more to base jumping. I think it's more complex at a fundamental level, just because of, you're starting with a parachute that's not out. I mean, you could do like a Todd or whatever, right? Like you can have it out, but it's not like speed flying where in theory, you have a good wing before you leave the ground, hopefully. But I digress. What I was getting at is I think base jumping has done a good job of kind of regulating itself, because there's a lot of people within that sport that don't want it to go away. And it looks bad on the sport when guys, buy a rig off of Marketplace and go to the Grand Canyon and jump off and don't do anything and they die, right? Because it's like, oh man, like base jumping, these rebels, these people that are idiots and they don't have, any knowledge of what they're doing. They're just hucking themselves. That's not true. There's some extremely smart, extremely calculated people that are actually risk averse in that sport, just like in speed flying. What I've noticed with speed flying is that if you know what to say and you go on Facebook Marketplace, you can literally buy any wing that you want that's available for not a lot of money. I'm a prime example of that with some of the wings I've bought. Outrageous. Do I need that wing? No. Am I going to fly it? No, because I don't want to die anytime soon. I'm talking about a 6 meter. I have no business owning that wing. It looks cool. It's nice because it's tiny, but I'm not going to be flying it for the next 3 years, you know? But I found a good deal. I'm like, okay, like, cool, right on. Should that guy have sold me that wing? No. Hell no.
Not at all.
I've got 400 speed flights, you know? I fly a 9 meter, you know, with your blessing, you know, and I felt comfortable under that wing, but that is a small wing for 400 speed flights, just being honest. Like, it probably shouldn't be doing that, you know? But I felt, you know, current. And you said something to me too, when I was talking to you about that wing and how I wanted to get on a 9 meter. And you're like, you know, you're current and you have a good head on your shoulders. I trust you with this, you know, you're going to love this wing. You can do it. And you weren't trying to sell me the wing. I was literally trading you, you know, you weren't gaining anything from me taking this wing or not. Right. I mean, yeah, you gained another wing, but that's beyond the point. I feel like as speed flyers, we collectively, need to be more responsible when it comes to who and what we are selling. Because we are the regulators, because we're it. There's no, I mean, USPA's adopted it, like you said, but that only goes to a point because, I'm being long-winded here, but you don't need, so it's like, okay, it's a base jumping, right? You need an object that's relatively tall. Okay. Like, you know, I know guys are jumping like 100 whatever feet, but that's like on the high end. That's on the 1% of the sport. You know, not a lot of people are doing that. So you need Twin Falls, you need Moab, you need some place at the cliff, all over Europe, whatever. Speed flying, I have literally launched off of grassy hills that are maybe 100 vert. Like, and you call it a speed flight, maybe not, but you don't need an object that is limited to begin with because there aren't that many objects to jump. I mean, there are, but like you talk about the bridge, that's one bridge that's legal to jump off of. People jump other stuff, but it's, you know, there's added stress because it's not legal.
Right. Well, that's, you know, speed flying, there's a lot more opportunities to fly. You know, there's coastal soaring sites. So over in Oregon, we're talking 10-foot sand dune. And with the proper winds, you're flying up and down for like 15 miles.
Wow.
On just like little tiny dunes.
Right.
You know? So there are more locations to speed fly than there are base jumping. But also, you know, there's certain sites or locations where there's zero speed flying. Let's talk the Midwest. You know, I can understand if I was living there, I'd be more into paramotoring and base jumping antennas and buildings.
Sure.
Because that's what's available.
Right. Yeah, it is region dependent. That's true. We're spoiled here. I mean, I live in the foothills of, you know, Mount Rainier. You know, there's plenty of spots to fly around me. They're not huge. It's not, you know, spectacular lines or anything, but yeah, I mean, if I lived somewhere flat, you know, it wouldn't even be a thing. I mean, it's, you know, it is terrain dependent. But there's just a lot more options, I guess, within that, which opens the door to the question, something you've already hinted or talked about a little bit, is how do you regulate a sport or make a sport safer that inherently might be really, really hard to actually regulate?
And that's the dilemma that speed flying has, especially with USPA trying to figure out how can we get people to become members. And I was asked that by the president of USPA when he was here for U.S. Open of paragliding, because, you know, asking him to help out with coming up with a standardization curriculum for speed flying, and also how are you going to get these members that are even going to abide by any of these things. And that's where, that's tough. Because, like I said earlier, it is the redhead stepchild of paragliding. You know, that's what speed flying is.
Right.
And the people that are attracted to it, you know, might not be flying sites that are USPA sanctioned. In fact, majority of the sites that you want to speed fly they're not paragliding sites. And so that's where hopefully you're going to attract the people that want a structured education and a good backbone before they continue on their own. So you will get those. And maybe help open more sites that are more specific to speed flying, which right now that might be, you know, working with DNR or BLM, and in which case to have you manicure certain sites, they're going to want to make sure that the people have that third-party liability insurance.
Right.
And the other thing was you need to promote the sport more and have events, where in order to participate in the events, you need that third-party liability backing. So here in the U.S., then, yeah, that's the way you get in.
Sure.
You were asking in the very beginning of this podcast about how do we get ski resorts to do it? I just mentioned back in the day when we just ripped it. And
right.
I remember ski patrol was at Stevens Pass and bombing down the front side right there. And I thought I was going to get busted. The ski patrol skied up to me and like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just flying my skydiving parachute down. Oh, you can do that again? I'm like, sure. And
off I went. That's amazing.
But recently I've been trying to get a legal approach into doing that. And my local ski resort, Mission Ridge. I was in talks with the general manager. It's also a friend of mine. On how we can go about doing that. And he talked to the owners of the ski resort, and I brought up an idea since they do ski racing there. They have the giant slalom course. Like, we can have an event right after the giant slalom, and we'll go be higher and incorporate our Speedfly event with the giant slalom course. Because we used to do that. Well, not we. The Red Bull actually used to put together some events back in the early 2000s. And we were flying skydiving canopies. And again, I didn't compete. But they set up gates and ski resorts, and Crystal Mountain had one.
That's
and
cool.
They called it the Red Bull Blade Raid. And
that's cool.
That was the first true kind of speed flying event. And that's kind of what I'd like to bring to the table. What they offered is, yes, I could do that and put on an event, but I needed $10 million liability insurance. And so looking to cover a sport like speed flying and find a carrier that will insure you for $10 million per contestant is unobtainable.
That's outrageous.
So I got my feelers out, and it was not even close.
It's too bad you couldn't just piggyback off of the liability they already have in place for the ski race.
That's where talking to them, the only way we could get this done is if I was hired by the ski resort and put under their event coordinator umbrella. Because what they do have is they do have $10 million liability insurance for their ski racers.
Oh, well, there we go. Yeah.
And so that's the only way that it'd be possible at this particular ski resort.
Right.
Now, are they willing to do that? No. Because why? How many speed flyers are out there? How much interest would there be to come watch these speed fly events? It's such a small community in a sport. It'd be very difficult to have a ski resort risk that liability with an unknown sport to most people. We're very passionate about it.
Right.
But,
But to the majority, right, of the population, at least, it doesn't exist. They might have seen it on Instagram or on TikTok, whatever the hell, but you're right. I mean, the majority, what are there, like 3,000-ish active speed pilots in the world? Maybe. It's hard to say because not everybody's, in a system like USPA or whatever, but I've heard estimations of 2,000 to 3,000 active, That's not a lot, especially when we're talking globally and not just in the U.S. I'm curious what the number would be in the U.S.
Yeah.
So
that's where we'd have to find a location that is more public lands that is flyable to bring back kind of that Blade Raid thing that could happen on, like I said, Bureau of Land Management property. That's the easiest to get permits that won't be demanding of a $10 million liability insurance.
Right.
So that's what I think to get speed flying more recognition and more people involved is try to forget about entering an actual ski resort and trying to put events on outside of that. That's more of public lands that are easier to get permits, do events, but yet they'll still want that third-party liability insurance.
Is that where USPA would come in, or is that
USPA would come in? That's where I'm trying to put on more helicopter events out in the mountains that are not deemed wilderness or national parks. It's
right.
Finding the type of terrain that is good for speed flying and has more public access, which right now is BLM and DNR in the United States is finding that property.
Right.
I'm in the process right now of getting the permits with DNR and BLM and doing helicopter drop-offs and maybe hopefully in the next, maybe this winter, I'll have our first kind of speed riding event.
That would be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Washington.
I was talking to a guy that lives in Chamonix a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and he was telling me about kind of the way that the resorts are set up there. The system that they have in place for speed riding in bounds is essentially a zone, like a part of the resort within the boundaries, but kind of like outside of the groomed runs. They do it differently there, right? Like anything groomed is in bounds, anything ungroomed, even if it's just off the groomed part, is considered out of bounds or backcountry. And then if you got hurt, on the line, basically it'd either be like the people that work at the resort that would come scoop you up, like ski patrol, or it'd be like some helicopter rescue service if you're just like 10 feet off, but basically what he said is like they have this zone that's a beginner friendly zone where you can practice launching your wing with skis on, and you can get little short flights in, and you can do 30 laps a day because it's a short little chair ride or gondola ride up, and you can ease your way into the bigger, more unforgiving terrain. I'm wondering if, with what you just talked about, if you have to already be at a pretty high level of proficiency at speed riding to then go and fly in the zone that you're talking about. It kind of sounds like it is relatively advanced. But have you thought about any way to like maybe put on a clinic or like something that's a little bit more approachable for people?
No,
that don't
absolutely. That's what that is my ultimate goal is, we'll have spots that these are good speed riding spots, but also speed flying courses, and that brings up a lot of things, but a location, if you are at least intermediate level skier, it's pretty simple to launch on skis. If you already know how to speed fly.
Right.
And you already know how to ski, it's pretty simple. You don't necessarily have to speed ride. It's literally just launch and land in the wintertime. And then the speed riding is a whole new style of flying and skiing that, even top speed flyers that have never tried it, it's good to get, some lessons on that, and where I can offer that as well.
Sure.
Because right now, anyone that wants speed riding lessons, even U.S. instructors are going over to Europe so they can be instructors because there's no spots here to instruct. So
wow,
that's one thing.
Going over to teach speed riding in Europe.
Oh,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we're talking full on awesome instructors here in the U.S. in the wintertime. They've moved to Europe so they can teach speed riding because there is no location here.
There isn't. Yeah. I don't think there's a single resort in the U.S. right now that allows it with the lift spinning. There used to be. I think Alta used to allow, when I worked there, I worked at Snowbird, but they share a ridgeline, 10 years ago. They did allow you to launch off of Mount Baldy, which is the mountain that separates the two resorts. You just had to stay, I think it was like 150 feet off the ground. And then there was like a designated LZ down at like kind of by the parking lot. Yeah,
and here in Washington State, it was Crystal Mountain. And that's where, like I said, that was the first place I'd ever been.
Right.
Like allowed to.
Sure.
And they were doing that for a while. And then when the Mini Wings ratings came out, they saw some issues and asked some of the local pilots to come up with a program, and they made it where you had to have a P3 and a mini wing rating in order to fly there. And then they started moving it out of bounds. It was the only place you could fly. And to be honest, I have no idea if they even allow that anymore. But they used to allow, back in the day, even before speed flying, paragliders to, go up on the lifts and go out of bounds, launch your paraglider. So
that's cool.
They might still allow that. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, and I guess what I'm referring to specifically is inbounds, because obviously, if you have the knowledge and the ability to do, to go backcountry skiing, you in theory have the ability to also go backcountry speed riding. It's just, I don't know. I appreciate hiking and flying. I love hiking. It's awesome. But a part of me is a bit jealous of the European model where they can rip 30 laps a day from the very top of their ski areas, and they're taking the gondola up and. They sipping a cappuccino on the way up. They're not like working for it as much. I'm sure people do still, but to have the ability to do that, I think is cool. Obviously, Europe has a completely different model as far as liability goes, and that's
it's
probably
the litigious nature of America.
Right.
US.
I mean, it makes things tough. But if you could ride a snow bike at an open ski area with skiers and snowboarders and not have a damn clue what you're doing, you should, in theory, be able to fly 50 feet off the deck, because you're not going to run into somebody 50 feet off the deck. Obviously, people could get run into, but I'll tell you, those snow bikes scare the crap out of me. As a ski patrolman, like I've seen some stuff. I'm like, you know what? Like, these things are a liability, but they're allowed.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But also, which has happened to ski resorts over in Europe that now ban it, is all it takes is that one bad apple that says, yeah, you know what? I'm going to start grinding the
chairlift.
The chairlift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then take out people on a chair.
Right.
That's all it takes. So
I
understand the ski resorts hesitancy.
Well, I mean, it is a business at the end of the day, and they're not in the business of hurting people outside of their control. So if you keep people on the ground, you're at least reducing the potential of somebody getting taken out. There's collisions that happen every day at ski areas, especially when it's busy.
Yeah.
It's just usually you're not going 60 miles per hour from above. And then taking somebody out, So I understand, the premise behind not allowing it. And I know it's like, I'm just splitting hairs with this. I've been thinking about this for a long time, just how awesome it would be though, to just have lift access, speed riding, speed flying. But I realize that, it's a bit of a pipe dream right now. But you never know in the future.
Yeah,
right?
we just need to find a billionaire and get him interested in speed flying and buy a ski resort and
then it'll be loud.
Let it happen.
Yes. Yeah, just shut down a whole area that's just for speed riding. Yeah. That's what it would take. You got to corn it off a bit. I think just keep the skiers and the people in the air away from each other. It's unfortunate, but people are inherently a little irresponsible. I think not everybody, but there's, like you said, there's a bad apple that ruins it, and that's all it takes. So it makes sense, but it does bum me out.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So we're going to have to make do with what we got. And that's what I'm trying to do out here is I try to facilitate, fun and pushing the envelope where people want to push it, but still regulate it somewhat just to keep it going.
Sure.
That's where I put on events that most people wouldn't put on. I bring in proximity wingsuit flyers and speed flyers and do events out in the Cascades. And
yeah, talk about that a little bit. What trips, what kind of events do you hold? I guess regularly here at Airsports Chelan.
Well, not only do I own the skydiving center and a private flight park, so we can do everything there, but I have access to aircrafts and helicopters. My buddy owns Northwind helicopters. He's got, I think, 10 or 12 helicopters, mostly used for ag, but whenever I want to do something silly and stupid, as some people would refer to it, I don't think it's stupid, but he's able to facilitate some of that. And one of the trips we do is deep in the Cascades. There's probably the most remote town to get to is called Stehekin, Washington. And it's on the opposite end of Lake Chelan, which is 50 miles. It winds into the Cascades. And I rent out a big ranch there, and there's a peak that rises 7,800 feet next to the ranch. And I barge fuel over in, and we fly helicopters in, and I let wingsuit pilots jump out over the mountain and proximity fly down, and normal skydivers and that stuff. We can't speed fly on that location because what we're flying down is national park. So the national park rangers probably don't like it, but there's nothing they can do about it because we don't actually touch down. They're just, the wingsuits are proximity flying, and we land on private property down the valley below.
That's an awesome loophole. I like that.
Yeah, that one's good.
It's not even a loophole. You're well within the rules. It's funny. Yeah. Yeah, what's that? No aerial vehicle delivery or something? I don't know how the National Park Service...
Yeah, you got to be 2,000 feet above the terrain with motorized.
Right.
So the wingsuits aren't motorized, so they're 1 foot from the terrain.
Right.
On the way down.
For sure. But that's why you can't speed fly there, because you can't launch
I can't drop people off.
Okay.
You can, and that's where I'm trying to work out to see if I can get a conditional use permit through the FAA to allow us to direct bag speed wings out of helicopters. Because here in the United States, there's the FAA rules and regulations are involved, where the equipment used if you're going to skydive or jump out of an aircraft needs to have a TSO, basically inspection and certification through the FAA to make it legal to jump out. Where you don't need that in Europe. That's why people can direct bag paragliders and speed flyers out of helicopters. We can't do that in the United States.
I see.
But maybe there'll be a conditional use permit for when I want to do these events. Because it would be ideal, okay, so the national park won't let you drop people off on top. Got it. That's a national park law. But if we could direct bag a speed wing, 2,000 feet above the peak and then fly that mountain down, that's something I'm looking into and seeing if there is some type of permitting process that I can go through with the FAA to get that approved, like temporarily.
Sure. Wow. I mean, that would be, incredible. I don't think I'd have the balls to do that, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would.
Yeah. And one thing I've been working on is I actually reinforce some speed wings, use different types of lines because they're not designed to have that opening shock that we do in skydiving. And have a skydiving harness that's more a supine harness, kind of like the Mutant harnesses, where we have a TSO and a reserve, but yet we can still direct bag a speed wing that can handle, multiple direct bags out of a helicopter.
That's cool.
And that's another loophole that I'm looking into.
That's some cutting edge stuff. That'll be interesting to see what happens with that. That's cool.
We'll see.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Man, that's wild. Always innovating. I like it. You have other trips too. There's a speed fly. There's like a.
Well, yeah, it took me a while, but found another location and I got the permits to do helicopter drop offs on BLM property and DNR property, as well as some private property where I made friends with some of these landowners. And this location, there's 2,700 foot flights, 3,500 foot flights, and 6,500 foot flights.
Wow.
And that's last year was the first year that I got all the permits and we did it. I call it the Palmer Lake Escape. It's this lake called Palmer. And that's where I'm going to start working on some winter events and doing multiple events there. And that's a region that has a lot of BLM and DNR property with good steep terrain. Winter, we're going to see it doesn't have the high elevation to get the best snow conditions.
Sure.
So it'd be, seasonal dependent on what kind of winter we get.
Right.
Whether or not it always has snow on the top, but maybe not in the landing area, in the wintertime.
Right.
Pretty barren. And so back to the speed riding and stuff. We'll see.
Sure. Sure.
There's definitely always a point of the year where there's snow on top and the lake's frozen over. So you can always land on the lake.
Right. Lake. Which would be totally viable. Or even just, foot launching in the winter there, you know? So that would be cool.
Yeah, but I'm going to start advertising more of these trips. And I got a couple other up my sleeve.
Right.
And like we were just talking earlier, that's one way of getting speed flying more U.S. recognition and events and that sort of stuff is
right.
And that's where I also want to start talking with, Jeremy down at Saboba and Dave at Lake Isabel and just different speed flying schools. And maybe we can come up with a kind of a friendly competition speed flying, which I've always thought and noticing people that downsize rapidly. And one thing that nobody truly understands how good of a pilot they are until they're put through like a series of tests and obstacles to find out, are you a good precision pilot? And that back to the blade raids, like to have gates and flying through gates will really be an eye opener to someone who really truly understands their wings.
Right.
And that's what I want to start talking to, different schools and like, let's start a circuit of events or competitions.
Yeah.
And I think that would build the camaraderie of the local pilots and have more meeting times and meeting places and would actually educate the pilots and make them hone their skills and focus more on their skills and making sure that they're progressing rather than like, oh, hey, I want to go faster. I'm going to get a smaller wing.
Right. That's not necessarily how it works. I mean, you will go faster, but when stuff goes wrong, you're not going to know, or you're not going to be fast enough, to catch it before it's too late. Right.
Yeah. I
love that idea of having a circuit. You have, just spitballing here, but you've got, different categories, pro, intermediate, beginner, whatever. And then you have a clinic, for newer people, and you have the pros or whoever, instructors teach the newer folks, and you build a community and a culture, I guess, around having a circuit. I grew up playing team sports, and I have a competitive side of me that I would love to let out in the speed flying world. There just isn't. Some hike and fly races. I did one here, came in dead last. Very proud of that. Just a few months ago.
You did not come in dead last.
No, I did. I came in sixth. Yeah. There were 6 of us, and I came in sixth. Yeah, It was terrible. It was fun though. It was super fun. I was the second or third person on at the launch. Like I made it up there pretty quick, but I took an ungodly amount of time to get off the launch. So,
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good time. But yeah, I think, bringing competition into the sport would definitely get more eyeballs on it. And it would incentivize people becoming USHPA members, which then would obviously incentivize people getting the proper training. Not everybody has the means to travel, but anybody that asks, I'm like, if you have the means, you should come to Airsports Chelan, because you can progress here, and you're not going to scare the crap out of yourself on Airport Ridge, because it's like probably the most forgiving 600 foot, flight or like place to learn that I've ever seen. Point of the Mountain's cool, but the south side's 300 vertical feet. It's a great place to learn, great place to kite and stuff. I've flown there, probably have, 10 flights in a matter of a couple hours there. But it doesn't have the ability in that zone to progress. You got the north side, but it's the same thing. It's just taller. Here, you've got Airport Ridge, which is a lot like Point of the Mountain in regards to just it being like, steep and there's not a whole lot of obstacles. But then, you just look behind you and you've got, how many launches on Deer Mountain? Like 10? You got a lot of the ones that are like actually, you can launch a lot of places. But
that's my thought when building the flight park, is more of a training facility. And that's what I wish a lot of paragliders that come out to Chelan, they just fly, the world-renowned Butte, those big flights. But I'm hoping they see the benefit of having this flight park for really honing in your launch skills, and because we have so many different launches.
Right.
You've got, of course, the iconic Airport Ridge. That's like 550. We go up, we have what we call Pirates, and we have, southeasting, north-facing, all different types of slope angles. You go a little higher, we've got Fuigs with the places to practice a very mild cliff launch, so it's a good first cliff launch. And then, of course, the hiking and all the different launches you can get to from there. So, yeah, it's a good flight park.
And it's amazing. Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here talking to you. Like, I actually believe that it's the spot to be. Whether you're in the U.S. or not, I think it's a great place to be. And then, there's so much terrain to play in. There's so many different line options when you're on Deer Mountain. Even on Airport Ridge, there's so many things that you can do in that area, because it's very steep, but there is a bench, and there's little bits of terrain that you can play in on Airport Ridge. I have way more flights off Airport Ridge than I do Deer Mountain, simply because I, was just trying to get a ton of reps of launching and landing. But I also like that terrain. Like I enjoy the fact that like there's a million different options in this one spot, and I have to make the plan before I launch and then execute it before it's time to land, because it is 550 vert. I don't have 2,000 feet to play with there. I can't really change my mind too much on what I'm trying to do, but the consequence is a lot lower because it's steep and there's no trees.
Well, that's what you want when you're in a training environment, is
right.
You want a very forgiving launch and forgiving landing area and in between.
Sure.
And that's what makes Point of the Mountain great.
Right.
That's what makes Airport Ridge great.
Right.
But the nice thing is we also have to evolve from there and all these different launches to get you prepared for when you go out in the real world and you're doing your first hike and fly in untouched territory. And that's where it's good to learn somewhere where it's forgiving, and prepare you for where you're going to fly that it's unforgiving.
Right.
And that's where Point of the Mountain, you have Point of the Mountain, and then boom, people are going up to some big mountain stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
and close by too. You know, the Wasatch Range is no joke. There's a lot of lines there flown, and that have been flown since the beginning of the sport and probably before. You know, I saw guys ripping down Mount Superior across the street from Snowbird and Alta in 2012. You know, like probably the GoPro guys, maybe some Red Bull guys. I'm not really sure, but putting in tracks in spots where you would not be able to put in tracks otherwise. You know, so. And that opened my eyes to it, but I was like, that's for pros. Like I can't do that. And I'm still not doing that exactly, but you know, here we are 10 years later and I'm doing a podcast about the sport. It's kind of crazy. Well, I was thinking about that earlier. No, but so, you have two boogies that take place here. Obviously one skydiving and one is speed flying, and they're coming up in October. Do you want to talk about the boogies a little bit?
Oh, sure. I mean, the skydiving boogie is like, and I don't know why. I just don't like the term boogie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. What would you like? Event? What do you want to call it?
Festival.
Festival. Yeah. Festival's cooler. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the boogie term, I guess, in skydiving, you should keep that because that was like back in the 80s, you know, where disco was a thing, early 80s.
I was wondering where that term came from.
Yeah, let's go boogie on down.
Boogie on down, jump out of some planes.
You know, let's do a bunch of Coke and
yeah,
that was the skydiving thing back in the 80s from what I hear. I didn't start then.
That's hilarious. Just doing hood rat shit with my friends. Yeah, that's okay. So festivals, so you have two festivals coming up.
So of course skydiving thing, and that's a simple thing where we just bring in bigger aircraft, helicopters, biplanes, get some food trucks, some music,
lots of people
have a good old time.
Yeah,
and then did the same thing 2 weeks later with speed flyers and paragliders.
Speed Fest.
Yeah, it's Speed Fest, which it was a dish. You know, originally just speed flyers, but it's like, hey, all my friends speed fly, paraglide, do everything. I was like, so let's just bring over the paragliders too. So we did the skydiving thing in the first weekend of October, and then the third weekend we do a speed flying festival. Pretty much kind of the same thing, but we bring in extra shuttle vehicles, side by sides to take them up the mountain, helicopters to drop people off on Deer Mountain, the Butte, with helicopters.
At a very fair price, I will add.
I try to keep it cheap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For the most part.
Todd is for the people. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the community growing. So I do helicopter drop-offs for, $40, $50. It depends on
that's
how many people.
Outrageously cheap. Like, oh my God. Yeah. That's amazing. It's hard to find a lift ticket in, a big corporate commercial drop zone for it's $8 cheap. 32 I think is like the national average now. Maybe it's more. I don't know. I've been out of the skydiving game for a year now, but to take a helicopter ride up for $40 or $50 sign me up. That's a steal.
Yeah. So it's not a huge flight. It's a 2,500 foot flight. So,
But you took a helicopter up.
Yeah, $50 helicopter ride up, and you got a 2,500 foot flight.
It's about the experience, Yeah. Some awesome TikTok footage for you.
And of course, the helicopter pilots give you a fun ride up.
Of course, yeah.
You're trained flying on the way up.
Right, there we go. You're paying for the experience,
Yeah.
Paying pennies for the experience, to be honest. But yeah, and that's a fun one too. And I mean, you're situated right here on the Columbia River. There's a beach sometimes that's swoopable. You can get your little pond, touch in, but it's a river, and land on the beach, and then obviously, you've got Deer Mountain and then, the helicopter actually takes people up way higher than the normal Deer Mountain launches. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take up to the summit.
To the top. Right.
And that's where, I can only drive up to 1,300 feet. Flights, and so but people can hike after that all the way up to the 2,500 foot flights.
Right,
it's much quicker with a helicopter.
A lot less effort too, and probably more fun.
Yeah, you're up there in 3 minutes.
Right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's coming up. I'll put a link in the show notes for this too for anybody that's interested in how to sign up for that. But you get camping at the drop zone, which is just adjacent to the flight park for that event, those two events, right? Yep. And you said, were there food trucks? Are there food trucks for Speedfest? I know you had them for.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a food truck for this year.
Cool.
I got an Asian food truck.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that'll be the food theme this year.
I love it. It's super cool.
Yeah. And then the Saturday night party will be in the hangar.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I've got a brewery, Hunga Dunga Brewery. He's an Airsports enthusiast.
Nice.
So he's supplying the beer.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's super
and
cool.
seltzers for those that drink seltzers.
I mean, you know.
And then we got water for the people that are smart and don't drink alcohol.
Nice. Nice.
I'm not one of them.
Sparkling water for the people that drink water with their pinkies up. Yeah. It's cool. So funny. That's awesome. Well, shoot, I mean, we've been at this for a little while, but you're my buddy, so I'm assuming, and mentor, by the way. In fact, before I say what anything you want to end with, I just want to tell you thank you for having this place, for dreaming big, because you've told me about some of the plans that you have, and I think not only were you a pioneer of the sport because you were doing it before it was a thing, but you're also growing the sport in a positive way with your involvement with USHBA, with the way that you with your approach to instruction. I think you are the epitome of the direction I would love to see the sport go, which is cool.
Well, thanks, man. But
you're also not like a high school principal, you know, like you care about people's safety and you want people to have fun, but you want them to do it right. I think you're way quicker to say yes than you are no, which I think goes a long way, especially with this breed of people.
Yeah, I don't like saying no. I want everyone to pursue their passions and dreams, but if I see something that's a danger to someone or someone else, you know, then of course I got to put my foot down.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the right way to go, you know. I mean, you are one of us, even though you are,
totally.
You know, maybe one of the godfathers, but you're still one of us.
Yeah, I just want more people to fly with.
Exactly. More
you know?
More friends. Yeah.
But when I'm on top of a mountain, I want that person next to me that I want just as much confidence as them as they do of themselves, you know.
Right. Right.
That should be the ultimate goal.
Sure. Yeah. Certainly. Very cool. Any parting words before we cut this thing? I mean, you can just go on a monologue if you like. It's up to
you. I'm good. Just like I said, if you want to get into speed flying, the only advice that I have is find a mentor, find a place to learn. Don't learn just on YouTube. I mean, you can learn a lot of stuff digitally, but it's best to have someone to at least observe and report. And ultimately, that's what education is becoming now, because you can learn so much, you know, on your phone, and you can get a good knowledge base. And even places like, even we are doing like a digital testing to get you started with videos and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you need someone to give you feedback on your progression. Too many people don't understand their flaws and think they're doing things correctly when they're not. So the best thing is to get someone to observe and give you feedback, and make sure you don't have that, what is it, Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yep.
Which so many people get, because a lot of people that pursue the sports that we're in, we're all A-type personalities, but we have to be put in check. And so find someone you trust and that'll give you proper feedback and not rah-rah you through the process. But yeah, keep yourself in check. That's all I can say.
It's advice from Yoda himself. Thanks so much for doing this, Todd. I appreciate your time and having me in your hangar. And
brother, good job stepping up and helping spread the word on this awesome sport.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Cool. All right. See ya.
See ya.
All right, guys. That was episode 12 with Todd Higley. I hope you enjoyed it. Todd's a good friend of mine. He's also a mentor to me and an instructor at times. He's an awesome dude. And, Airsports Chelan is, I call it my home flight park, even though I live 2.5 hours away. It's an easy drive when I know where I'm going. Is an awesome place to be, but more importantly, full of awesome people and some really badass pilots. I mean, Todd is ripping still in his old age. I'm just kidding. He's not that old. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. To those of you who bought t-shirts and hats, I very, very much appreciate you guys. That's cool. You are 1 in 9 people in the world that have a piece of Speed Vector swag, I guess, for lack of a better term. There'll be more. It just depends on demand and depends on budget and all that. This is a passion project for me at this point, and not doing it for the money, but money's cool. Money funds fun things, if you know what I mean. And this podcast is pretty fun, and I want to grow it. I want to help pilots in the future, help current pilots, help people that are interested in the sport, help people that are deep in the sport to get quality information, and I want to provide a platform for that kind of information to be passed. It's really important for the sport to grow. It's important for the individuals within the sport, and it's important to me because I care about the sport and I care about all of you. So yeah, remember, just keep listening. Go check out the Instagram page. I don't post a lot there. It's more just about the podcast itself. So make sure you're subscribing to it. Turn on the notification bell or whatever it is when there's a new episode released. That way you are notified. And please go rate the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you consume this. It takes exactly 1 second. And for you generations past millennials, it probably takes negative seconds, if that's even a thing. You guys are all tech savvy. But anyway, thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. Speed Vector wouldn't be possible without all you. Until next time, see you.